Amy and Vince, you guys ready?
Yeah, we're getting there.
All right.
Okay, you're on.
Beautiful and live.
Commissioners and supervisors, ready?
Live from Vernon.
Bill? Ready? Ready.
Do I turn this on when I'm done?
Yes.
Town of Vernon Plan Commission and joint town board meeting call to order on Wednesday, March 10th, 2017 at 6 p.m. Plan Commission and town board members rise for a pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call for the town board and plan commission, Madam Clerk.
Chairman Thomas Byrd.
Present.
Supervisor Commissioner Jeff Millies.
Present.
Supervisor Gary Wildy.
Present.
Supervisor Commissioner Bill Craig.
Present.
Commissioner Merle Wagner.
Present.
Commissioner Megan Johnson. Mr. Chairman, you do have a quorum of your board and Plan Commission present. Supervisor Ed Moline has an excused absence. Also present at the meeting is our Building and Zoning Administrator Vince Budiak and our Town Planner Jamie Rabarczyk.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Open meetings law compliance.
Mr. Chairman, the agenda was posted inside and outside the Vernon Town Hall, to the town's website, to the media, and to other businesses within the town of Vernon. You're in full compliance with the open meetings law.
All right. Item 4, miscellaneous matters. The following matters will be discussed and possible action taken by the Vernon Town Board and or the Town of Vernon Plan Commission unless otherwise noted. Item A, zoning administration in the Town of Vernon. This is here, I think all of you know why, but for explanation to the public here is that the person that is doing now, Vince Budiak, he doesn't want to do it anymore or can't do it anymore, and I think I'm going to stop there and let Vince explain why, so I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Okay.
So Vince, you take it from there.
Well, I had approached Karen and I approached Tom and talked about the current status with the zoning administration, and since we got out of county, really when we look at it, years ago or over the last 5 years, I would say that it really has changed. A lot of the information has changed. Our economy has changed, so therefore more people are buying and selling. A lot of information on a daily basis. You're getting phone calls, information on zoning criteria, detached accessory structures, what they can put on each individual lot, how many animals they can be on each individual lot. But when that comes in, they really want to know the status, or they want to know an answer. But unless you are based, you got to look at every single parcel, because you can't give a general. There's no way that you can give a general idea what that's going to be, because you don't know what the acreage is. You don't know if there's a road right of way that has to be considered vacated. You don't know if there's a future road coming through that parcel. We don't know if it's an environmental corridor. We don't know. All these things take research and takes time. So typically, it's basically I've been getting a lot of phone calls. So when I'm on the road, I'm out in the field. I'll take those calls. I'll jot everything down. I'll put everything on my computer, and then when I get in the office, I'll look at it, take a look at each individual parcel, and then I can give an educated answer. Or when I get home in my home office, I'll make phone calls at night. But it just doesn't seem like we got out of county because we wanted to formulate our own zoning and have more control on everything. And we tried to do this for years and years. Finally, we're successful, and it's a great thing because we have more say into what goes on in the town. But yet now there's a lot more to it than on a daily basis than really I had anticipated. We have older subdivisions, we have some older properties, we have a lot of some conditional uses, we have like I say, the EC and the C1 are still prevalent. So there's a lot of, you have to take a look at a lot of different things And it's just, right now, because I feel, as far as the inspection side of it, I'm not able to get my permits done as quickly because I'm focusing more on the zoning than I am on all those issues. So I want to make sure that we're serving the residents and anybody else, in a timely manner and get those answers. A lot of them have to do with sales. I mean, sales I don't think we have many houses in the town of Vernon that are for sale. They go like that, but people want to know exactly what they can and cannot do on that property. So.
Supervisors or planning commission members?
Well,
Any questions?
I remember back a couple of years ago when we were working to get out from under county zoning, we really didn't know what we were gonna do for our own zoning. And I can see that Vince, by the time he's done chasing after these other violations and issuing permits, I can see that it'd be almost impossible for the same person to do all the zoning administration too. So I think, you know how I am in spending, but I think when I look back, we knew we might be facing this dilemma. That's how
Well, I think that the times have changed too over the last, well, when did we start trying to get out of zoning as far as our first zoning code?
1846.
No, I think when we first started writing it, when was that?
25 years.
Or more than
started
that.
in
7 years, I think it was.
08.
Pardon?
This
When I
time.
first came on board, we started in 08, but I know in the 90s, maybe
Yeah.
even sooner than that. the town was
But at
working
that
on.
particular time, then, we were dealing with a different type of economy.
Right.
So now all of a sudden things are moving, it's intense. So at that time when you anticipate it, it's hard to anticipate because you're kind of thinking about what's happening at that time, not realizing what the future is going to bring. And I'm not trying to get out of anything,
Yeah.
or I'm just trying to be honest with everybody and just say that, I really would like to have the opportunity to serve the residents better.
If plan commission members would probably remember this more than town board members, but during the process of getting out of zone, we've had this conversation again and again on what we were going to do. And Vince said that he would try.
Yeah.
So he's tried it since January, and it's finding it's consuming an awful lot of his time. So hence, we have the planner.
Who has all the time in the world.
So I had talked to Jamie about this, and we kind of came to a conclusion on if this would happen, or if he would become an administrator, he would have the ability to have someone in the office at all times that people could email him, they could call him, and he would be in the office, and he'd be able to access those particular parcels, give them more information on a very timely basis. And then as far as zoning permits and issuing the zoning permits, it would be the same situation. We'd set it up so we would have it on our website. Their email, the contact person, his phone number, everything that would be needed for the zoning permit, and they could do a PDF for their house plans. They could do scan over the proposal for the plat survey. The zoning permit would be able to be, as it is right now. Karen's done a great job. It's on our website. You can actually fill it out on our website. They'd be able to fill it out and then send it directly to Jamie's, to Fourth Company, and then someone would immediately start working on it.
Would this be someone from your office, Jamie, or would it be you, or what would your recommendation be?
The recommendation, and Vince had met the gentleman yesterday, Sean Malarkey, in our office. He's been there almost as long as I have. Sean really does all of my day-to-day work for all of my communities because I do all the meetings. I'm on the road most of the time and that. So there's really not a learning curve for him. He knows the Vernon code. He assisted me behind the scenes in writing most of the code. He helps me in my other communities. He has the same background that I have as far as planning architecture, etc. And that's what he is. He's kind of a day-to-day guy in the office. He doesn't have the client relations part that I have. So he's accessible, but that doesn't mean that I go away by any means. As Vince had mentioned, we've been talking about this system, not only in Vernon but in other communities as well, to help out his firm, because I think everybody knows development is changing. It's hard for one person to do it from A to Z. So we're here willing to hit the ground running if the town so chooses.
One thing I'd like to add too on my side is not only has the zoning aspect changed, the real estate aspect changed of the building, it's plan review. The state has changed a lot of codes. Plan review on houses and anything takes an enormous amount of time now. They changed the code for simple decks, where it's a learning curve for everybody around the state, and we have to make sure that we do the plan review, and we become more teachers too for the contractors. So those things take up an awful lot of time, and I just don't want to have one thing take away from the other thing. I just it's just something that I would rather not do.
Vince, right now, do you have any feel for how many hours a week we're looking at the present time? Any idea?
It's kind of hard to say. I would probably say maybe, depends. Every week's different, but 5 hours, maybe 5 hours, 6 hours, depending on what we have for volume. And it all depends on. I mean, there's still. I'm never going to get away from the phone calls. I mean, a lot of times they'll start here with our clerk, and then she'll probably pass some of that stuff to me, and then if we need to, then it'll go to zoning. But that's kind of what we're into right now, But I would probably say 5-6 hours a week.
So budget-wise, if we shot for 10 hours a week, we'd be pretty safe right now, you think?
Yeah, I think you would probably.
We're in the busiest season of the year right now. So.
Right.
Well, I talked to Jamie this afternoon. And Jamie, you want to explain what we came up with and how we would approach this for
Sure.
where we can keep a watch on it, and for budget purposes?
So where we're implementing it, and when I say we, it's Vince and I, we're implementing this in the town of Waukesha. It's going to start June 1st. Vince is going to be the new building inspector for the town of Waukesha.
I'm not going to be. My firm is.
Your firm is going to be. So what we're doing there is that the contract that I have with the town is going to stay as is. I'm still going to bill on my hourly rate. But what we're going to do is from June 1 to December 31st, we're going to keep track of the time that we're spending on zoning administration. That will then be compared to the permit fees that the town collects for the types of reviews that I'm doing. And at the end of the year, we're going to do an audit to see, did they receive more in permit fees than they actually did pay in services, or did they pay more in services than they collected in permit fees? And then we'll make an adjustment accordingly for 2018. In talking to Vince, I think that some of the zoning administration could be covered in kind of the site plan of operation, conditional uses that we do for more of the commercial areas. We can cover more of that in our upfront staff report, so that at the back end, we're not spending as much time on the zoning administration component of it. Single family houses, that's a little bit different because we really only review that at the plat level, not the individual lot. But we do know that Vince has a standard form or permit fee for review of the house. We will take that into consideration when we review it so that we know how many hours we should be spending. And again, yesterday, Vince and I, we sat down, we created a checklist of what he typically looks at per the different reviews. So I have a pretty good handle as to what we're looking at and what needs to be done within that allotted time frame. Accessory buildings, we usually do that, through our accessory building review process. So again, I think the back end of the zoning permits, there's not going to be as much work. So I'm confident that in our contract with Vernon, where we do an hourly rate, that we can do the same thing for the zoning administration and then do an audit at the end of the year and see where we're at.
So what would happen, right now we charge per zoning permit. So that, they would do the zoning permit, they would issue the zoning permit, they'd give me the zoning permit number when they came in, similar to what county did. And then we would charge for the zoning permit. So all the money, it's not part of our contract or split or anything, and all the money that was generated from zoning would go directly to the town. So there would be nothing taken out of that. One other thing I'd really like to stress is when you excuse me, when our planner and our zoning are together and you go to plan commission, right as soon as you start plan commission and you start getting a determination of where this is leading, the zoning can actually start kicking in. So you'll start looking at all these things right at that point. So by the time it goes through, an example is the paintball. As we go through now, we kind of went through everything, and then but at the end, when it comes to my desk, there's other things that I have to make sure are correct. DOT, we had to do some stuff with effigy grounds. I made sure that the DNR was involved, so we did the chapter 30. But all this stuff would be included in that, so it'd be easier so that we don't have it would be a smooth transition, in my opinion, a smoother transition, so make sure nothing falls to the cracks. We got everything done. By the time it's in with Plan Commission, it's pretty much done, with just a little bit of technical stuff for the zoning.
So would there be, well, Jamie, first of all, what kind of hourly rate are we looking at?
It's the standard hourly rate that we have for the town
115.
now, so it's $115 an hour.
Okay, so we're planning, and right now we don't know exactly what our costs are, so we'd be working on a chargeback basis with that also?
If they're coming to Plan Commission, yeah.
Okay.
But not if, that was the other thing too, is I know Vince's swamp, but my office too handles a lot of zoning questions or people calling, they're looking for a lot, they don't understand who do they call, what are the setbacks. I mean, some of that stuff I can answer, but when it gets technical or it relates to shoreline zoning and other issues, I have to, hand it off to Vince, because I'm not going to give information that's...
No, it is really tricky, and what we have left could be considered problematic. Some of our lots and things that we have. I mean, we just talked about one that you're working with now. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, so you got to make sure you're easy and you're
This isn't anything new for us. I mean, we've been dealing with this forever. For people calling and trying to get as much for nothing as they can. You can't blame them.
No. Would that person that you're talking about from your office, Jamie, would they be? We just changed this procedure for having a sit down where everybody's on the same. Would that person be a member of this?
Has nothing to do with that. The review team, no.
Zoning wouldn't be involved in any of that?
No, but what they're saying is in the process of what the development review team would do for Plan Commission would be much more comprehensive, so when it gets to the zoning procedure, that information Jamie would know that to pass it on to he or Sean.
We're hopeful that we would have most of that information in hand before we got to the zoning permit stage.
So a lot of this information is just telephone inquiries, can I do this, or what's that's kind of thing we're talking about?
Correct, and then, you're gonna have the occasional someone coming in with a deck that's gonna submit an application, we're gonna do the zoning.
But those are chargeback then, right?
No, those are per fee, those are permit fees, based on permit fees, those aren't chargeback.
But you're going to separate all those things, so they'll know exactly what they're paying for, and then also then you'll know what the zoning permit fees are bringing in on a monthly basis. You'll be able to see all those things.
We'll have to watch.
And this isn't something that's just Vernon. A lot of other communities are going this route. The town of McQuantico is looking into this. In the town of Waukesha, there's a lot of things just because of the nature of how it is, and what our.
And then we'll be able to plan better for the budget process.
So how does
based on
this
the audit.
affect, the codes that we have in place now and our sheet that we made up that explains things, and we're gonna have to go over some of those.
I will have to look at the zoning code. I don't know if we identified the zoning administrator as the building inspector or designee, or designee.
Designee.
If we did, then I think we're okay. If it specifically says building inspector,
Well,
I think it said designee.
we may have to
Well, we may
address
have to
that at that
do-
time.
Make a revision, that's all.
yeah.
Right.
Is that hard?
What happens in Jamie, I call your office with a real basic zoning question, takes 5 minutes, what happens?
You get charged. I'm sorry. We get charged.
Is that a no charge for so many minutes?
No.
Or we're gonna get nailed for every minute or what?
The actual answer is we bill on 6-minute increments. So
6 minutes?
6-minute increments, right?
Hang up at 5.5.
Right.
You're on the clock.
Set your alarm.
You're on
Set
the
your
clock.
buzzer at 5
What's that buzzer?
minutes and 30 seconds.
As you and I have always discussed, I'm not in the business of nickeling and diming every
Yeah.
single person that's out there. You know, for us to
That's a job, Macy.
sit in a 8-hour day and add up all the 6 minutes that we've done, we really look at,
Yeah.
okay, was it a half-hour conversation? Was it 45-minute conversation? Was it 1 hour? So, yes, I believe that most of these is going to be picking up. Someone's going to say, what's my offset? We're going to look on the GIS system.
Right.
It's R1. Your offset is X, and they'll say, thank you very much, and then it's over with, and then we go on with our business.
Well, technically, we want to be calling the clerk's office first, and then hopefully she
We'll
would,
call the clerk's office, they'll call me.
and then
Who do I call?
get direction from there.
That's going to be up to the town whether they want Sean's email and contact information on the website so people can call them directly, or if they still want it funneled through Karen, and then if Karen's office can't answer it, and I'm fine with whatever the town decides.
You
I
could
would
run
it final.
think that
Karen
would be the
would
way to go through Karen, because she routes everything
Yeah.
for the town board, plan commission committees,
We're
everything
gonna
goes
send
through
Karen a zoning school.
The only thing,
Every question you possibly.
the only thing we want to make sure though,
Rule.
on the website, we want to make sure we go through, Jamie and I will work on this, make sure we have a comprehensive list of everything that has to be sent to his office to apply for a zoning permit. So when you have that comprehensive list, it's so much easier for everyone to get it there, filled out. That was a problem with county,
It'll be a good list for you.
because they would give you certain things and then you'd wait,
What's
and
that?
then 2 weeks later they'd say,
It's a list.
I don't need it. But it is, you are a designate, so we'll have to amend the ordinance. The building inspector is identified as the zoning administrator.
It's not
Really? I thought
or
it was both
designee. It
plans.
doesn't
No, it
have or
says-
designate in it.
Nope, it's
Okay.
town building inspector is
Okay.
designated, yeah. And there's no designee.
Now, the other thing that the town can think about doing so that there's transparency is setting up a zoning administrator at Town of Vernon website where people can submit the permits and stuff too, versus it going just directly to, let's say, Fult's office or Sean, so that way Karen and any one of her staff would have access to that email, and then we can just log in and pull from it. That's something that I would suggest.
Oh, and that's something that we could create on our new website, a secure login for Jamie or Sean to get in that nobody else can get into. And that's secure also. And Vince did, I don't know if he mentioned that he's still going to do the violations, the enforcement of
yeah, we still
violations.
do the violations and take care of all that.
He's really good at
But
that.
Karen, we've got it down, Karen does a really good job. We'll do the investigation, and then we'll send out the letters, and we'll just make sure that we monitor, make sure this is done.
Well, we knew when we started this, that was gonna be a trial and error,
Yeah.
depending on what
We'll figure it
happened.
out.
how
We gotta
much
figure it
work
out,
there was.
that's all.
Yeah, that's all. It's not that big a deal, it's just a matter of determining how we proceed.
So, I'm gonna make a motion for plan commission. Plan Commission members, yea or nay, this town board members. I'm gonna make a recommendation to the town board from the Plan Commission to have Brooke do the zoning administrator and have them look up to what needs to be changed in our code to have us do that. And to have this implemented June 1st.
Would you be, I mean, I can
That's what Vince and I had discussed. I think it's a matter of the three of us getting on the same page and seeing what modifications or checklists we want to add to our form so that it's a one-stop shop.
And then what I'll do in the meantime is if I'm sorry, if I was going to say if it passes, I should wait till it passes.
Yeah. So that give the both of you enough time, it's the 10th.
I can make it happen on my part.
I think we know what exactly what we're
And
gonna
if we need to have another meeting for town board in between there to approve the amend the code or whatever we gotta do, well, so be it then. Then we do. Is there a second?
I'll second
Okay. So I think we'll just take a voice vote here, Madam Clerk.
That's fine. Let's see, Chairman Thomas Byrd,
Yes.
Supervisor Commissioner Jeff Millies,
it. Yes.
Supervisor Commissioner Bill Craig,
Yes.
Commissioner Merle Wagner, Commissioner Megan Johnson. Mr. Chairman, you have a unanimous vote to approve the motion.
Now, would we have a regular separate contract for that, Jamie? Is that what's gonna happen June 1st?
My thought was no, because it's just following suit with our standard hourly rate. What I will do is that the first full invoice that we have that has zoning administration on, I'll come to the board and I'll go over that invoice with
Good.
you gentlemen. And then if there's anything that we need to modify to help us better track it on a monthly basis, I can make those modifications then moving forward.
Okay. So it's been recommended to the town board. Would you want to read that recommendation?
The motion was to recommend to the town board that the Fourth Company do the zoning administration to be implemented June 1st, 2017, was seconded by Commissioner Supervisor Jeff Millies, and was voted unanimously.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second
The motion,
Pardon?
that wasn't approved, the motion.
But this is town board now.
What's not on the town board agenda?
This
Oh,
is town board or,
Oh,
and this is town board and the Rural Plan Commission. And it was,
okay. All right. So the identical motion for town board?
right.
Without the record.
With the caveat of having, we want to go with that 6-month audit on that, correct? Or do you want to go supervisor?
I think we gotta go sooner because we gotta start budgeting.
You want to go,
3 months.
3 months? A 3-month audit on that and see where we're at? Think that'll give you enough time, Jamie?
Yeah, my hope is that the way that I have envisioned on setting up our invoices, that we should be able to look at it on a monthly basis as to what I'm billing for each of the types of zoning administration
Okay.
versus what you collected in hand for those same types of. So I'm hoping that we can do it on a monthly.
Okay. Then we'll put that as a 3-month audit.
June through August?
Yeah. End of August, right?
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second
I'd like a voice vote on this too, Madam Clerk.
Chairman Thomas Byrd,
Yes.
Supervisor Jeff Millies,
Yes.
Supervisor Gary Wiley,
it. Yes.
Supervisor Bill Craig.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, you have a unanimous vote of the motion.
All right. Okay. Item B, Chapter 144, Commercial and Industrial Development. This here, I wanted to talk with Vince and Jamie about, that we have here in definitions, Chapter 144, Commercial and Industrial. Waukesha County zoning districts, which are B1, B2, B3, M1, M2, BP, B4, and P1, and agricultural business zoning districts. Now, this was caught by one of the supervisors. We need to clean that up.
Chapter 1.
That was caught by you, Vince.
Yeah. Yeah, it should reference Town of Vernon, and then we should make sure that we carried over the same labeling of the districts.
So if I get that, I'm going to amend that. I'm going to draft that and have you check it. Is that okay? Because I just don't want to, I mean, I think I know what all the zoning categories are, but...
Yeah, I don't know if we have an M2. I think we only have the one manufacturer.
Right.
I don't know if we used manufacturing or if we used industrial.
Yeah, we have to make sure that we get the American friction welding category in that.
Yeah. But we do have agricultural business, that's the greenhouse. So
Right.
we have one zone there. Public and institution. Yeah, so we just want to look at our code and make sure we're picking the right districts.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion as a plan commission chair to do that and send that for approval to the town board. Jamie?
For discussion purposes, Vince, shouldn't we leave Waukesha County's information in there as well? Because even if it's in Shoreland, we don't have zoning over it, but I believe we can enforce our design standards.
Don't they mirror ours? Or
I don't think
No,
they have.
they don't have anything
They don't have
like
any
that.
commercial design standards.
Yeah, this supersedes anything that county has as far as their design standards.
So my thought is, and maybe you might want to
run it by John.
run it by John, is that it should reference Town of Vernon, our zoning districts, and Waukesha County and their zoning districts. Because there may be a commercial development in Shoreland that we don't have zoning authority over, but we still want the
business.
county
It
to
could
Policing
enforce
action.
our commercial design standards.
It
on
could possibly be.
Right.
Okay, then I'll make that motion to run it by the town attorney, and then we'll bring it back to town board. Is there a second?
Monitor then floodplain elevation just through Vince, or do we have to have the DNR and the Waukesha County verifying?
Floodplain is typically, all floodplain is in the shoreline jurisdiction,
County.
in the county shoreline zoning district. Any of our lakes, even the ponds in Hidden Lakes, that's in county shoreline jurisdiction. Rachel Lake is in county shoreline jurisdiction, and Pardo Creekside Estates. We have part of it, they have part of it.
I had one, I don't know, were we approving, Tom, this whole 144 right now, recommending to the town? Because I had another question on a different page.
The whole thing's on there. The whole ordinance is on there.
Yeah, okay, because on page 3, letter of credit required. Don't we have a problem with that right now? Requiring a letter of credit versus,
No, that he's talking about in the land division control ordinance, and they are reviewing, Jamie, on the May 26th, a letter of credit verbiage. But there is a surety bond and letter of credit letter from John Macy that they deferred to until they do the land division control ordinance.
Right, what Supervisor Craig is referring to is that under our commercial design standards, there might be some requirements that we would require a letter of credit to make sure the improvements are done.
Yeah,
That's separate from the land division ordinance. that you just-
And does
But
that
the key
say,
word there is shall.
so we
Because
still
it's-
could require it. in this-
Yeah, so for example, in here, and just bear with me, we have here, all parking surfaces, roadways, driveways, and loading areas shall be paved with a bituminous or concrete surface within 6 months after occupancy of the site. If you felt that as a part of a commercial development, Walmart comes in, and you are concerned that they're not, for whatever reason, going to pave their entire parking lot within the first 6 months, you could ask for a letter of credit as a surety that that would get done. And if not, you could then pull the letter of credit and do it yourself as a town project.
Which would be like the paintball operation.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So this letter of credit that you're requesting is separate above and beyond the state statute requirement for plats, where now some developers have the right to put up front a bond versus a letter of credit.
Right, okay.
And Jamie, if you would put that language in, you would always preface the fact that it be approved by the town attorney, the letter of credit?
Yes.
Yeah, so,
And the letter of credit is always the developer provides you with the cost estimate. Your engineer reviews it and agrees to the cost estimate. The form in which it's written up is approved by the town attorney.
right, okay.
Has that been typical standard operating procedure on this?
We've had this in here. I don't know if I recall we using it. And it might be because the size of some of the commercial developments that we've been getting, it hasn't been an issue. And the developments that we've been doing, there hasn't been a lot of public improvements outside of maybe just a parking lot. But in theory, you know, someone could come in, do a business park, you know, with multiple parking lots, access points, private drives, etc., where this could come into play. So I think it's good to have in there. You just never know
All right, I just was
what the
wondering if
future is
that-
coming.
Yeah, you explained it, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. So, I made the motion, that Jamie was gonna get that verbiage corrected and have it looked at by our town attorney. Is there?
Karen's drafting it, and then I'm going to review it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Karen will be spearheading that. So, is there a second?
One second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Now, this doesn't have to go to town board, because this is just going to the attorney. Once it comes back from the attorney, we'll put it on the agenda for the town board. Okay, item C, adjournment of the plan commission meeting. I'll make that motion.
Second. Second.
You have 2 seconds?
Oh, I thought you made the motion.
All those in favor?
Second.
In favor of adjourning the plan commission meeting? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Plan commission is adjourned at 6:36. All right. You may still stay here and listen to the conversations if you so wish. We're not throwing you out the door. But if you want to be dismissed, go right ahead. Thank you for coming. Okay, item 5, the following matters will be discussed and possible action taken by the Town of Vernon Board of Supervisors unless otherwise noted. Storage at Vernon Station Number 1 located at Woodland Drive. Vince and Jamie, I wanted you here to ask you, what can we do for outdoor storage at the fire department? They have such a conglomeration of things that are just laying there. We're thinking that, can we put a fenced-in area to cut that down so it doesn't look so hideous, or what can we do there?
Well, the original proposal was the storage containers, and originally when we came in, I was looking at offset setbacks, looking at more of a building structure, not those taking into account that there are storage, and we had our new zoning address storage, and in our new zoning code, they're not allowed. So if it's a container, that's not going to be, we're not going to be able to do it, but we should be able to do an accessory building.
A building like what Menards puts up, or one of those ones like that Proven Power selling those large, can a structure like that go on the fire department property?
Yeah, I think you have a couple different options. One is, I was just looking at chapter 144. which would be applicable to the public and institution. You could do outdoor storage similar to what we see in Enterprise Drive, as long as it was screened from, and I'm looking for the exact, so that it's screened, such material shall be screened from the view by completely opaque screens in a manner approved by the Plan Commission. So, in theory, if it's something that can be outside and can be weathered, you could do it with a fence. So that's option one.
Okay.
Option two is you could do a accessory structure per our accessory structure ordinance. I don't know, because the fire station is brick, compatibility, I don't know if we would necessarily say that the building has to be
No, it wouldn't.
brick, but
Compatibility isn't like for like, it's compatibility as far as the architecture.
yeah, so
Color scheme.
color
itself.
scheme and stuff like that. So you could do that. Or three is you can amend your zoning ordinance to allow for the shipping containers.
I think that would be a little, out of the ballpark. We were looking with something to stay within the zoning and the building code. The outside storage with a fence is not gonna be appropriate, because what the items that they need to store
They have to be
are items
inside.
that have to be stored
Sure.
inside
Sure.
the structure. What they're kind of concerned about is what kind of structure can they put up, and and it's all self-explanatory. I think if they look into, we talk to them and get them in the building.
Right, it would be based on the size of the property, but there's the waiver modification to exceed
Okay.
the size. Now, I do believe the one thing we have to be cautious with there at the fire station is the wetlands and setback from the
well,
wetlands.
We broached
Well,
that with
the way
this already.
where they had it, we shouldn't have an issue.
Okay.
It should be greater
Yeah,
than
so I
seven.
think
Okay.
that's
We'll
one
have
thing
to
we
take a-
didn't resolve.
We'll have to take a look exactly as far as our separation, because there was a little bit of different play with, because we were talking about more of a pad, but now we kind
The
of.
fire department wants a structure, and so does the Boy Scouts. And it would be, we had it set up, it'd be probably what was storage thing, about 20 feet long?
They were 20 by 10, I think,
Yeah,
each one of
and
them.
it would fit within the parameters of where they wanted to place it. It's just a matter of what kind of structure can we put up there.
Okay. And I'm trying to look at the zoning map. The county doesn't have shoreline or anything with regard to the,
Not in where the building area is, I
Okay.
don't believe, but I'll double check that, but.
At least not right now, it doesn't involve.
well, I forget
never know,
because
it changes
that area
periodically.
stays
Really
wet, whether it's an actual pond or if it's a wetland,
Yeah.
so.
Well, that's why I wanted to try and, because I didn't want to call you up on it, and this way we're off the clock and you're here anyway, so that's why this was put on the agenda. Because I talked to you on the phone and I tried to keep it within the 6 minutes.
Right.
And I talked to Karen and Tom, and they agreed to put it on the agenda. I just want some clarification, so when I go back to these guys, I can tell them exactly what can we do and what can't we do up there.
Okay.
All right, well, I appreciate it, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
An accessory building is a lot more expensive than a
Well,
storage trailer.
no, I don't know. They were gonna spend $2,000 a piece on these storage units, and I think you can put up a fairly nice structure, can't you, for $2,000?
10 by 10.
No, I
Sorry.
think so.
They got up that much?
They're pretty expensive.
Are they?
The doors are big $2,000.
You might want to get a quote on a storage, on a
Yeah.
building before.
Well, that's why I'm gonna talk to these guys. They're the ones that come in to ask if they can do it. They have to figure out how they wanna fund it.
Because the location of that trailer's in back out of the way where.
Well, that's gonna be gone.
I know where we did go that type of route where a trailer, storage trailer.
That trailer that's parked there, that was one of the things that will be out of there.
Mhm.
They're gonna move that out of there.
Yeah.
Fire department will.
When we wrote our ordinance, the example that comes to mind, if anybody's driven down it, is on the cul-de-sac of Enterprise Drive, American Fireworks. I think that's what we were trying to eliminate.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. You know,
Right.
that
Well, not only
was
that,
well done.
there's a lot of the new pod places, and those pods can sit there for, people store their stuff, pick it up, put a pod there, and they can stay there for a long period of
Yeah.
time.
Okay, well, it gives me some direction a little bit. If I have any further questions, I can go through Vince, talk to Vince.
Mhm.
All right, item B, update the land use map for the Town of Vernon Smart Growth Comprehensive Plan. Jamie?
Yeah, I had provided a month or so ago a proposal. I think it came out to a little over $11,000. I believe that there was some questions by the supervisors with regard to that proposal. I wasn't at that meeting, but we did add it for tonight in case there was any questions that I could answer for you, or to see if there's maybe some other direction that we want to take a look at that might be more comparable to the town's budget.
Supervisors, any questions? Okay. Bill?
I'm wondering, what are the minimum requirements for smart growth compliance?
Well, in the way that I approach this took out smart growth altogether. What we are doing is the map that's right behind both the commissioners and the board members is what our focus was going to be. That's just one map within the comprehensive plan. To go through and look at the corridors and change the land uses, that's the proposal I put before you. What I meant by that this wasn't compliance with statutory requirements is just that those requirements as far as the public hearing, notifying the adjoining communities, putting together the resolutions and that, I was putting that onus on Karen and her staff. So that's the only thing that I had met from a statutory compliance standpoint, is that that would be the responsibility of Karen to make sure those I's and those T's were dotted and crossed. I wasn't looking at any of the other 8 elements. I wasn't looking at demographics of that. My vision was that I'd be sitting down with maybe a couple of supervisors or a plan commission member and a supervisor, and I would go through and we would look at the 3 corridors. I would get a sense as to where you're coming from. I would go away, I would do an analysis, I would look at the individual properties, and then I would come back with a recommendation. So from my standpoint, it was very bare bones. But I did state that at a minimum, I wanted to look at our full Chapter 10 that's in our comprehensive plan, because we did identify the town into 4 neighborhoods, and there was some discussion about the future commercial use and stuff, so I wanted to make sure that we understood that. I also wanted to make sure that the county, because we all know that the county has their own development plan as well. And right now, our 2 land use plans are pretty close to being consistent. They're not exactly mirror each other, but in most cases, they're consistent. If we change the land uses along our corridors, I just want to make sure that we're not making any significant changes that the county then, at a later date, wouldn't adopt as well. Because what we can do is we can go through and we can change the uses on our corridor, and someone could come forward and say, I now want to rezone my property from AD10 to commercial, which our land use plan allows. So we would approve the rezone, but then the rezone has to go to Waukesha County. Waukesha County is going to review that rezone versus their development plan. There may be some cases, and I'll stress there may be some cases, where the county is going to say, no, we're not going to change our development plan because that's not what we had envisioned for the area. And then all of a sudden, that resident went through all the steps that the town asked them, but at the last step, they got a denial and they can't move any further. So I wanted to make sure that what we were proposing made sense from our standpoint, and also there was enough fact behind it that the county would have a harder time denying an amendment to their development plan. Now, I believe that the county has kind of changed their position. Originally, they would only do updates to their land use plan once a year. And I think you had to get it in by like January, and then it was approved in March. I think under the new county exec, they're more open to doing it on a regular basis, but I might be wrong in stating that. I don't know if they still have their 1 year.
Well, that was Paul Farrell's, county exec Paul Farrell's.
Right.
But
so, I really, from my last proposal to this proposal, I really kind of stripped out. I also said that, we're not looking at what McGuanago's doing, we're not looking at, anything that might be as part of the discussions between the communities, not looking at what Muskego's doing, not looking at what New Berlin's doing as either. It's just what are we wanting to do within our community. So I had, 2 staff meetings, 1 joint plan commission board meeting to present the preliminary map, and then a public hearing. I felt that there probably should be some language that goes along with the map and explains the map as to why we changed the corridors. I didn't envision it was going to be a 20-page document. It's probably going to be 4 or 5 pages as to this was our thought process, this is how the town involved the residents. It may have a section that talks about, land use conflicts, that we've identified these corridors, but there might be some conflicts along the line. So it really was kind of a nuts and bolts proposal that I put together.
But right now, Jamie, as it stands, we just got out from Leonard County.
Mm-hmm.
So we should be in 100% agreement with county because we haven't changed anything, correct?
From a zoning standpoint, correct, but I think you're mixing that up with land use. Our land use, our comprehensive plans, when the county updated their development plan back in 2010, I think it was back then, I sat down with Jason with our land use plan, and that was about the same time when I think we modified for Chris Peterson. We put his into agricultural business. I think we modified our fire station, the designation there. Jason Fruth and I sat down and we went quarter section by quarter section to see if our future land use plans matched up. In most cases we did, in some cases we didn't. In some cases we had higher density residential than what the county felt, and we just at that time agreed to disagree. So now if we go through along the corridors and we change that from residential or agricultural to commercial, we're now no longer going to be consistent with the county. What we're going to end up doing is once we would adopt, let's say, our new land use plan, we would probably want to petition the county to then look at their land use plan and try to bring it into conformity with what we just adopted, but there's no guarantees that the county's going to do that.
So that still gives them total jurisdiction, though. That's the confusing part. Now we're outside of shoreline, let's assume we are, outside of shoreline, outside of environmental corridor or whatever.
Right.
So why should the county have anything to say about what we do with our zoning if we're outside those areas?
Well, if you remember, part of that legislation,
Land use bill.
part of the legislation that Oconomowoc and Genesee and Vernon got adopted, the biggest thing that the county wanted in trade for you getting out of county zoning was to be able to administer their development plan countywide, because that's important to them. Preservation of corridors countywide is important to them. Preservation of stormwater management countywide is important to them. So they still have that kind of authority over the individual towns. Even though you're out of county zoning, they still wanted the right countywide to administer their development plan.
And cities and villages don't have to do that. So that's why you have annexations. The county we have to go to the county and get permission. If they don't give us permission, they just annex to the village and city, and they can do whatever they want. That's the law. Sorry.
So if we as a board, which I think we agreed upon already, want to change zoning, which would change use along 164, why would we have to do anything beyond that at this point? That's my question, basically. In other words, why could we not proceed, have you do a study of that zoning, and with the idea of changing that to a business, whether it's a B3 or whatever, 164 north and south of yes, and stop right there. And forget everything else about smart growth is what I'm saying.
Right, because if you're looking to rezone that property, that rezone has to be approved by the county.
Okay.
Before it can take effect. You can say that it matches your land use plan, and you would be correct. So it would get all thumbs up from the town. When that rezone goes to the county is going to review it against their development plan. The county's development plan says otherwise, they're gonna say, no, we're denying it. And then the rezone doesn't go through. The one example that I can bring up, and Chairman Byrd can also chime in, we went through 2 different proposals on the Maney driving range. The first one was the car condo place.
Yeah.
And remember, we wanted to amend our comprehensive plan for commercial to allow it, and Jason Fruth's response was,
No.
we don't feel that that area is slated for future commercial. Therefore, the only way they could do it was through a conditional use, and the county said, we don't think it fits the conditional use. So we weren't able to entertain the car condo, that's why that left. There was one more use before Siege Paintball, and I'm drawing a blank,
I can't
that
think
it was
of what it was either.
that it was a commercial, the mini storage.
Yeah,
We had a mini storage proposal. We felt it was best for B3. B3 wasn't a permitted use in the rural residential area. It would require amending our comprehensive plan to commercial and then rezone. And the county said, no, we're not interested in changing the development plan to commercial. So that didn't go anywhere. Siege Paintball went forward because we worked with the county. The county said, yeah, you guys can do that as a conditional use under the 80-10 zoning. There's no change to the comprehensive plan. It fits our development plan. We will approve the rezone.
So basically, we're still at the mercy somewhat of the county when it comes to making sure our plan coincides with their plan.
If you take the stance of doing it in a vacuum and not necessarily bringing them in up front to at least have the discussion. I think if you bring Jason and his staff early on into discussion and
Yeah,
make
better.
them aware of what you're looking to do with those corridors, you'll have a better chance.
Chance of,
Right.
Success.
And maybe you don't take all 3 corridors at once. You prioritize the corridors and over time, working with the county to get it changed.
okay, don't be,
That I think is a little bit better of a strategy.
don't be greedy, just get our foot in the door
Right,
a little bit and then proceed from there
right,
as time goes by.
right. I think I think you're moving in the right direction, that those are your next viable areas for commercial development. The traffic counts they might be there now, they're soon to come because everybody's, growing. People are using those routes as alternative routes. So I think what you want to do is you want to pitch to the county that you would like at least the opportunity to capitalize on those. You can use MW Marine, that was a perfect example, on National Avenue. So, but I think what you need to do is you have to get them involved earlier on.
Okay.
And I think that you can explain to them that you don't necessarily need to pick up your entire plan and redo your entire plan. You want to focus on what's most important to you right
At the
now.
present time, yeah.
Right.
I would think that we should do 164 north of yes. Start with that.
Yeah, it's the most viable right now.
Jamie, what do you think that would cost? Just to do that section from ES to town line?
Town line.
Well, we don't own.
Hardly nothing.
Big Bend has got some land on
All we
that
have is
west
Bauer.
side there.
The Bauer property and those 2 little properties next, 3.
I'm kind of on the spot, but let's take
Well, if you wanna put a
no,
proposal.
let's take the 12,000 and say it's a third. So you're looking at maybe $3,000 to $4,000.
What do you think, Tom? Well, I think, Jamie's been patient and we've been throwing this around.
So,
Now with the explanation,
right,
I kind of agree with Jamie that it'll take work on Jamie and my part. We'll have to go down to the county, we'll have to set up meetings with them, we'll have to sit down, talk with Jason. Jason will wanna know what we wanna do with it. Then I'll bring that stuff back just about like we were doing with what we did with our zoning
I
code,
mean, 164 is logical, especially north. We've been hearing rumors that there's some activity on the Ball property that's in Big Bend. You have the land that's directly to the west, right?
Mhm.
And south. So there's a potential there of capitalizing on the development there. You have Siege Paintball, which, let's say, is a catalyst for the area. Probably not the catalyst that that you wanted for the area, but at least, you know, he's going to be bringing in more traffic as a destination spot there. So you could be looking at, you know, Kelsey Avenue going 164 south. So I think that those are two viable areas that you could try to get, you know, the county to start thinking along the same lines.
I think it'd be easier if we did 164 as a whole, talk to the county. They're gonna say, why are you just doing this section, not the other section? And I think we could say that, hey, we're looking at this whole corridor, you'd be more willing to work with you as a whole versus piecemeal.
So you would say that if we did 164 and didn't do ES, concentrated on 164, well, we could pick out and change, and we'll look at that. That'd be about $6,000, about half,
No, I was saying a third, so I was
A third.
thinking probably 3 to 4.
3 to 4.
Yeah, and then I am not opposed at all to going to the county first. My basic question is, why do we have to go section by section at this point and make sure we comply with, or we're in agreement with?
Right, and I only raise that's how we got to this point
Right.
with the current plan that we have. No, I'm not saying moving forward that we need to do that.
Okay,
No, no,
okay.
no.
But yeah, if we're looking at $3,000, that's a whole different ballgame for us, and we're accomplishing what we want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna make a motion that, when Jamie gets up to 35, I'm gonna split the difference. I was thinking like 4. When he gets to $3,500, he comes and tells us, hey, I'm gonna need a little more money
And we're gonna concentrate just on that.
on 164.
Okay.
I'll second it.
What was it? Did you get
My
that?
motion. Did you get that motion?
I have no clue. When, your motion is when Jamie gets to 3,500, he stops. Is that it?
He lets us know, not stop, but he,
yeah.
he lets us know where we're at.
I'll modify this
Okay.
with the 3,500 so that you have an idea of the deliverables.
Okay.
Can I assume that let's say a staff meeting would be myself, the chairman, and would it be one other board member or one other plan
Sure,
commissioner?
I would open that up to anybody from Plan Commission or town.
Subject to that lengthy email of the open meetings law that we just got, that we're not in violation of that. I glanced at the first page and then I archived the
You'd
email.
probably, I mean, that is a good point. You'd probably be better picking a plan commission member than you would another, because then you don't have a negative quorum either.
Yeah,
So Merle or Megan. But you'd have to be available to go up to the county and,
yeah.
because you'd start that discussion with Jason pretty quick, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Before you do a lot of work?
Yes, yeah.
Do we know what the county has planned for 164 right now? How much deviation would it be from what we want to do than what the county has got planned for that?
Their full development plan is on their website.
Okay.
It's really hard to
I would like to say that it's probably pretty close to what you see back there.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think, 2010, our plan hasn't changed along at least that particular corridor since 2010. Actually, you can, on their GIS system, you can turn their development, their land use on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
So I didn't get a second.
I'll
Gary,
second.
second.
I second.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, second either. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Jamie, just to clarify, that we have no more requirements, musts, under smart growth then, correct? We're
Do
doing
we
this.
have to do?
The way that the language in your plan is written now is that every year you should take a look at it, which you have been doing. We've made minor modifications. Every 5 years, you should it's kind of take a more in-depth look at it, start looking at your goals, objectives, crossing out what you accomplished, what you haven't accomplished. And then every 10 years, they say you really should do a rewrite of it. We haven't done the 5 or 10 year, but it's because we haven't seen a lot of growth, we haven't seen a lot of development. Something like this, I think you can do as the text portion of it can be an addendum to the comprehensive plan without changing everything else. And the one thing that Attorney Macy had suggested to me is in that addendum, you have a paragraph that says, we're looking at this because of A, B, and C. You know, there hasn't been a lot of development coming forward. You know, we think our plan still serves all of our needs and that. We just are looking at a specific area because of these reasons. So.
All right. Item C, image proposal for Waukesha County Parks and Land Use. This is Madam Clerk. Do you want to explain this?
The reason that there's no fees related to this proposal because it's in its infancy. I've been working with the county on this in relationship to what they have regarding all the site plan of operation, conditional use, board of adjustments, subdivision plats, everything that the county has in their documentation. We're in the process, we've already digitized all our planning commission information. We're in the process of also digitizing all of our building permits. Eventually I'd like to even do the culvert, so there's a comprehensive knowledge base, not only on our servers and in our financial software, but also in working with the county. I wanted to create a database that is, number one, secure, but a database that if you have a planner, a building inspector, a board member, a resident, needing information in regards to what's on that property, you'd have, you know, as comprehensive as we can provide information at your fingertips. In working with, and I should let you know, this Dale Shaver is totally on board, Jason Fruth totally on board, and Don Dittmer. Those are the three gentlemen that I've been working with. And really the town of Vernon is going to be like the pilot because City of Pewaukee does some of their sewer and water laterals, but the town of Vernon would be extremely comprehensive as it relates to what I would like the board to and Plan Commission to look at as far as a database. I should let you know, and I don't think this is a bad thing, but the county wanted you to know is if the town goes along with this proposal, it's not limited to just the town of Vernon. These are open records, these are public records, but the database that we would like to create would also be viewed by anyone. Not only town of Vernon residents, anybody, but as I stated, these are open records. So I just wanted you to be forewarned that if we proceed with getting prices and the agreement going, first of all the prices, and then secondary the agreement with the county, I just wanted you to know that it would not be just secured that we could only see it. Anybody that would like to see what's on a property, you would view it. And we also agreed to that. I'll go through the process itself, but in your package you saw some of the mapping features where they highlight what is a conditional rezoning, what's a conditional use, board of adjustments. Each layer that you would, that's the proposal, each layer that you would toggle on, you could say, I only want to see conditional uses, it brings those up. You take that toggle up, I only want to see conditional rezoning. Whatever you want to see, that feature would be part of the county's GIS mapping system. So if you didn't want to see a board of adjustments, or if you did, whatever you want to see, you tell the GIS map what you want to see. And then taking a step further is if we implement an icon for all the Plan Commission records. And this would be a complement to what the county has. If we kind of go along with it, there's going to be other additional work in relationship to what we have versus what the county has. And then taking it a step further, adding the building and zoning permits onto a property. So like I said, you know, I just wanted you to know I don't have any prices yet because I first wanted you to understand that if we proceed with this, this is not a secure, it's a secure document as it relates to the GIS system that the county hosts.
But it's all information that we have now.
It's all public record.
It's all public record, so.
Right. And I think it's a good thing because when residents call and ask about different parcels or what's there, I can refer them right to that map. We could even eventually do training sessions that we could show residents how they could utilize this feature for their questions. Sometimes they have questions about what was approved by their neighbor. They don't want to cause neighbor problems. They'd like to see. And the nice feature with this also is that the information that we have done so far, the town would not implement that into the GIS system. We would give those files to the county, and then the county staff would implement them and create the icons that are utilized by their staff and the public. What's going to happen also, which I think is a great feature, is no matter what we do in the town, what the county's doing with the shoreline zoning, it would mirror each other. So it'd be a living map. What the county's creating in their jurisdiction would be uploaded as well as what the town's doing. So that map lives and breathes as creation and development happens in the town of Vernon. But I didn't want to go any further in regards to pricing. The first and foremost, you have to know that these would be open to the public.
Probably would save us a number of calls to your office or to Jamie's office also.
And it's a great
information you've got in mind.
And even for us here, if I have to answer a question, if I can go right to our server that dedicates some of the files, I'd like to even take it further, but I can only do so much. It's nicer to have it at your fingertips instead of going to a filing system. And so that was the thought, is to have as much at your fingertips as possible. Not only for staff, but mainly for staff. I care about the residents, but staff time is critical, and having as many tools available to Vince and the planning and Jamie and planning division would be very, very helpful.
How often would it be updated, and who would do the updating?
It would be continually. The initial upload of the building and planning, I'd have to talk to the county because those are thousands and thousands of documents. Yeah. The nice thing also is in working with the state of Wisconsin on the Historical Society for our building permits, those have to be in multiple areas of security before we can get rid of the permits. And when I talked to the state, I wanted to actually give those to the residents, and we can't. Once we upload all that information onto our servers and to our website and the county's website, we'd have multiple locations for those official records, but we could not give them. So once we upload those, we have to destroy them. So that public record exists on our server, the county server. I even talked to the county about even putting our market analysis for assessment. But I haven't gotten that far because that's a whole nother firm that does our software for our market assessment. But eventually, as soon as that software is done, that could also be a link for residents or real estate agents, which we get a lot of appraisers, real estate agents calling about specific information as it relates to a property where your zoning and planning usually don't go into the detail. An assessment record is totally different than that. But I just wanted you to know where we're at and see what you think of the concept before we go any further as it relates to price or agreements. I wanted to see what your feeling.
What do you want to do first?
Well,
what would you like to do?
Well, if you like the idea, then I would go back to the county and ask them to start drafting information as it relates to an agreement and as it relates to pricing.
I'll make that motion. Karen, go to the county and start the paperwork.
Sounds so good, Vince can probably go back to zoning after.
Just made my life a lot easier.
Is this a system that can put like everything into it, like culverts?
It's all overlay, yeah.
Everything would be, as you add more and more layers to this, you could just go into the
I went in and saw some of the communities that, doing their water and sewer lateral. We don't have that issue, right. But for a community that does, City of Milwaukee, which used to be a town years ago, some of the detail that they have in regards to different layers is pretty impressive. And I think what the county's looking towards is providing this service, right.
And
for cities.
This is their next
level.
source of
But they
funding.
need somebody to bite on it and do it.
Yeah. Yeah, they will.
And we don't have the resources or the capability or staff to do the type of comprehensive work that goes into a GIS mapping
Well,
system.
and most counties within the state don't have the baseline that Waukesha County has. When you compare Waukesha County to other counties in the state as far as GIS, they're far superior across the board. There's numerous counties that I work in that I wish had the same system.
It's life easier.
Right, and now to be able to click on a parcel and know that there's a conditional use, and then also click and have that conditional use open up, versus having to pick up the phone and say, Karen, do you have this? Or pick up the phone and call Jason Fruth, and then maybe have to wait 3 or 4 hours before you get a copy of it.
Yeah, right away.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's gonna make, everybody's life more easier and efficient.
And all this would be accessible through GIS, you say?
Yes, just like anybody that would now want to find out information. This information that you're seeing in the packet is not available to the public as of yet. Some information is on, but not as detailed as you're going to see.
Okay, it's interesting. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. That's all you needed for that, right?
That's all I need.
Okay, item D, adjournment.
So moved.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. 7:14. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Megan.
Karen, is there some reason we had this 1985 ruling on 20 horses on a parcel?
Is that,
That was one of the documents that I wanted to show you what you'd be able to pull up.
that would be a conditional